Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
So how many of you watched the Donald Trump debate last night on taxes and nicknames for women? How many of you saw that debate? Yeah. I have to tell you, folks, I nearly turned it off. I can't tell you how many times. I was embarrassed by the whole thing. I mean, as a citizen, I was embarrassed for it. I mean, the critics of Donald Trump say that he's a buffoon and he's unserious and all this. Tim Kaine last night was an embarrassment. It was just an abomination, and that moderator was an embarrassment last night. It was. So much became clear, so much became obvious, and one of the things, I'll just tell you right off the bat, the left is paranoid and fearful. They are terrified to let any right-leaning, mainstream conservative ideas enter the public arena. They simply will not permit it because they are afraid of it. I submit to you that they know how extreme and out of the mainstream of American life and dreams and American ambition they are. I think they know it. I think that in fact, I think it governs and defines how they do everything. The reason they are lawless, the reason that they are politically corrupting as many institutions as possible is because they know they would not be preferred by a majority of people. They can't leave it to the chance of democracy. They just can't. They have to skew the game, rig the game, corrupt the institutions, and it just gets frustrating to watch it take place. It's getting more and more frustrating to watch this happen. And while it happens, we have to be treated to the arrogant conceit of these people that they represent the majority of thinking in this country. I refuse to believe that they do. And proof positive, Tim Kaine should have, if this country were gone and if we were lost, this country should have been applauding Tim Kaine last night, and he should have been proclaimed the knockdown winner. But that's not what happened. Even the drive-by media is embarrassed of Tim Kaine and realizes that he blew it. So their cover story is, well, you know what? He intended to lose it. They made a calculation on the Clinton side. Go ahead and lose the debate, but make sure they trash and tarnish Trump from the beginning to the end of the thing. It's worth losing the debate within the arena of ideas with all the judges, the American people, the media. And who knows? That could be true. But I maintain to you that these people are so terrified of what you and I believe. They are terrified of anybody who can explain it. They are terrified of anybody who can persuade. They are terrified of anybody who can sell it. They simply cannot, in their minds, permit the things that you and I believe, which are mainstream from the founding days of this country ideas. They can't permit them in the public domain, untouched, unattacked, unfiltered. It's really rather amazing when you think about it. They can't allow anybody to talk about the real world. They can't allow anybody to describe real circumstances for real people. They simply cannot allow it. They have to spin the illusion that exists inside their collective elitist compound in Washington, Boston, and New York, what is called the Washington, Boston, New York corridor. Don't let anybody talk about, say, job creation. No. We can't talk about job creation. The government does that already. Government's doing great, like 15 million new jobs. The interrupter kept shouting last night, 15 million new jobs. What 15 million new jobs? There are 94 million Americans not working. 15 million new jobs? What are they? They're part-time jobs, people hired so companies can escape Obamacare, which even Bill Clinton is out trashing now. And let's talk about the results of illegal immigration. No, we can't talk about illegal immigration honestly. We can't permit any honest characterization of what's happening to this country because of illegal immigration. Because there are too many potential Democrat votes tied up in it. So we can't allow anybody to actually discuss this in a truthful and honest manner. The left simply cannot survive in a room where the light shines equally on them and us. And last night was clear and present evidence of this. It was rank amateur. It was so beneath what this country deserves. It was so beneath what the people and the voters of this country deserve. And it was brought to us by the Democrat Party and their hacks disguised as journalists. It really was embarrassing. It didn't even reach the level of high school grade intellect. I mean, it was a shame. It was, to me, depressing that this kind of stuff has been triumphing, and the people who engage in this kind of stuff triumph and win. Let's not talk about stopping terrorism. Because, Hillary Clinton killed bin Laden with her bare hands. Yep. Where were you, Pence? Where were you? Huh? Hillary Clinton, she killed bin Laden. Did you miss that? You want to talk about terrorism? Where isn't any terrorism? Hillary Clinton killed bin Laden. I'm sitting there watching this. And I'm praying that the low information crowd is aware enough to see through this. Let's not talk about Social Security and how to actually pay for it. No. We got to talk about how the Republicans want to take yours away. We got to keep talking like the Democrats have been talking my whole life about how the Republicans want to cut your Social Security and kick you out of your house. And we want to keep talking about how trickle-down didn't work and how the economic policies of 10, 15, 20 years ago have not worked, as though the ones of the last 8 years have. The economic policies of 20, 30 years ago did work, and that's another thing the Democrats cannot permit to be admitted, seen, discussed, what have you. The economics of the Reagan years led to a 20-year boom until Bill Clinton's policies finally began to take their toll on it. The economic policies of the last 8 years are why millennials still live at home with their parents in the basement. The economic policies of the last 8 years are why millennial college graduates have 30-year debt to retire, along with their degrees that probably are not worth much in the grand marketplace of the American economy anyway. The economy of the last 8 years hasn't grown more than 1.5% in any one quarter. It is embarrassing. And let's not talk about how our tax code's an ungodly mess created by Washington, D.C. No. We got to scream about Donald Trump. We have to scream how Donald Trump is cheating everybody, how Donald Trump is not doing his fair share, how Donald Trump is not making proper investments, how Donald Trump is not doing his proper contributions. We must talk about how Donald Trump is cheating everybody. The Donald Trump who has created more jobs than Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Tim Kaine, Harry Reid, or any of these others combined in their entire lives. And let's talk about how Donald Trump is unfit. Let's talk about calling Mexicans names. Let's take everything out of context. Let's just keep reminding people. None of that. Not one instance of anything Tim Kaine was making a point about has anything to do with the future of this country. Now, some people, Rush, it's politics as usual. It's what we get. No, it's not. It's getting worse, folks. Last night, I sent a couple people a note. It looked to me like Kaine was trying to replicate Joe Biden's treatment of Paul Ryan. That's exactly what Biden started out interrupting, being contemptuous, disrespectful. It was the same playbook that they used if they think that they won the election back 4 years ago, the Romney-Ryan ticket. But this was worse. I mean, there is a gradual decline in the overall intellect, in the seriousness of the things that we are dealing with, the issues, the challenges that we as Americans face. And we were all insulted and disserved by two of the people in that debate last night. The moderator, I'm not going to embarrass her further by even mentioning her name, but she had no more business moderating that debate. Well, I can't think of an analogy. It was that inept. Every question was scripted from a playbook filled with irrelevant, meaningless statistics. The obvious interruptions that were permitted, the answers that were denied, and anytime Pence got anywhere near explaining and expressing what we believe, here comes the moderator to the rescue, shutting it all down. But Rush, you shouldn't be upset because even all the polls show that Tim Kaine didn't win. Tim Kaine was thought. I understand all that. It doesn't substitute for the fact that it was beneath us. Folks, we deserve, we're the American people. We're American voters. We are the people that make the country work. We deserve better than that. We deserve better than Hillary Clinton. We deserve better than the entire technique the Democrat Party uses to deny alternative ideas, to rig games, to corrupt institutions. We deserve better. What are you saying? You didn't think Pence did? No, I'm not saying that at all. I mean, Pence did as good as he could with what he had to work with. They were trying to bait Pence into losing his temper. They were trying to bait Pence into accepting all these faux so-called challenges from Kaine, and he did not fall for the traps, didn't fall for the bait, but as such, I mean, there were 70 interruptions because Pence was interrupted 70 times. I don't care how you think he did. He was interrupted 70 times. Is that the number that they concluded that is that the total number? Or is that Kaine's alone? It's, I mean, whatever. It's close to that. 70 different times a serious effort was made to silence Mike Pence. We deserve better than this. And the moderator was worthless. Totally over her head. Not qualified. Classic example of somebody who reads a teleprompter, needs a script. That's what I thought. 70 interruptions were just the Kaine interruption. Well, for every Kaine interruption, you have to conclude is 70 things Pence didn't get to say. 70 times Pence didn't get finished. 70 times Pence was prevented, is my point. They are terrified of any right-leaning, mainstream American ideas entering the public arena. Just shout out over and over that Trump loves Putin, that Mexicans are rapists, that women are pigs, and those tax returns. Yeah, just keep pounding those tax returns. Don't spend any time talking about the greatness of Hillary Clinton because you can't. Don't spend any time talking about the greatness of the last 8 years because you can't. Don't spend any time talking about the promise of the next 4 years under your leadership because you can't. All you can do is all you ever do, and that is impugn, besmirch, criticize, and character assassinate anybody that doesn't agree with you. The Democrats cannot have a debate. The Democrats cannot talk issues. The Democrats cannot talk about accountability because they are the ones who have created all of these messes that we find ourselves in that need desperate attention. And this is why it is imperative that the Democrats have party members disguised as journalists running blocks, downfield blocks in the back, clipping, you name it, illegal hands to the face, whatever penalty is needed, the media does it for them. And you end up with an event like last night. I know Pence did great. People think Pence was great. He maintained his composure, and he had he did. First time we heard some serious criticisms of the Clinton Foundation. It was all good, but the whole thing just left a really sour taste in my mouth as an American citizen. And then to add injury to insult, to realize that all kinds of people are out celebrating what Kaine did last night, considering it a rousing success. Anyway, that's my brief overview. We have audio soundbites we're going to get to. I don't know. I just didn't think it was possible. Hillary managed to find a vice presidential candidate almost as unlikable as she is. If her strategy was to find a jerk to make her appear likable by comparison, she damn near pulled it off. Greetings and welcome, El Rushbo, with half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. The telephone number, if you want to be on the program today, 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. It is a new email address. We keep hearing how qualified Hillary Clinton is to be president. I think it's kind of like somebody has to deny they're a prostitute, then there must be some doubt about it. If you have to keep telling us that Hillary Clinton's uber qualified, there must be some doubt about it. It must not be self-evident. It must not be apparent. And the reason it is apparent and self-evident is because it isn't true. The woman is no more qualified to be president than anybody else. Certainly not more qualified than George Washington or Abraham Lincoln or anybody else, which is how they are promoting her. Keep hearing how qualified she is. She's more prepared to be president than anybody. She had more exposure president than anybody else. Hillary Clinton is the most prepared to be impeached in advance of any presidential candidate this country has ever had. Hillary Clinton will be elected to be impeached. Now, what we continue to learn about the Justice Department and this email case. And by the way, I'm not being glib. If elected, Hillary Clinton could be impeached based on what we already know, and there's plenty more yet to be discovered. Emails and other documents could be used in impeachment proceedings, waiting to be found like Easter eggs laid out for 3-year-olds. That's why they destroyed the laptops. Don't think it's because they get rid of evidence like narcotics. They got rid of those laptops to get rid of any evidence we don't know about yet. Rush Limbaugh with talent on loan from God. MSNBC today floating a rumor. I don't know if MSNBC created the rumor or if they heard the rumor and are repeating it, but here is the rumor that PMS NBC was tossing around this morning. It is that Donald Trump is mad at Mike Pence for his debate performance because he didn't defend Trump nearly well enough, but he did good enough that it puts pressure on Trump to do better on Sunday night. And Trump doesn't like being outshined this way. The vice presidential candidate's not supposed to look better than the top of the ticket. Trump supposedly ticked off about this. Do you believe that? Is that right? Politico's have, so I guess it's not a rumor then. Politico has that story out there with that theme in the story, that Trump is mad at Pence for his debate performance since it puts pressure on Trump to do better in the next debate Sunday night. In fact, the Politico insiders, they have this group of establishment elitists that they convene now and then at Politico to assess and analyze these events, these comings and goings in our daily political lives. And the Politico insiders say that Mike Pence didn't just defeat Tim Kaine. He outshined Donald Trump. A majority of the battleground state insiders who comprise the Politico caucus gave Pence the edge over Kaine in the debate, but the Pence versus Trump comparison was unanimous. Each and every one of 48 Republican insiders who responded to Politico's post-debate survey last night said that Pence delivered a better debate performance than Trump did after what was widely seen as a Trump flop last week. Not even close, said an Ohio Republican. Is there anybody outside the Trump family who isn't wishing we could flip the ticket? Again, this is one of the Politico insiders, one of 48 Republican insiders responding to the debate, wishing that Pence was at the top of the ticket. Another Republican in this group from Nevada said Pence was the anti-Trump. He was prepared, he was smart, he was composed, and he showed respectful competence in leadership. A Virginia Republican said Trump was a disaster. A New Hampshire Republican suggested Pence pitch hit for Trump in the final two debates with Hillary. A Colorado Republican said if the Republican ticket were flipped, it would be game over. So you see, Trump cannot win. It cannot be purported. It cannot be reported. It cannot be said that Trump won, because even when his vice president does well, Trump loses. And this is how the mainstream media constructs these things. So the Trump campaign had, by every estimate last night, a resounding victory, and what it means is that Trump lost in the drive-by media. This is the kind of crap that is beneath us. This is the kind of... It's all driven by fear. These people on the left simply cannot run the risk of the ideas we believe in gaining prominence or even being heard. Now, I had a bunch of people in the email I checked it during the break ask me if I thought the debate would mean anything to the presidential election. I said yesterday to a caller that vice presidential debates usually don't matter who debates. Can I give you an example? Let's go back to what year would have been 1992. And this is Bill Clinton and this is 88. That's right, 88. George H.W. Bush running for the presidency, his first term. He'd chosen Dan Quayle to be his Veep. And he was up against Michael Dukakis, and Lord Benson of Texas was the vice presidential nominee. And during the vice presidential debate, Quayle versus Lord Benson, the subject of Quayle's lack of experience came up. He had only been in the Senate not long. So Quayle drew an analogy. Well, John F. Kennedy wasn't in the Senate very long when he was elected president. Lord Benson paused and said, Senator, I knew John Kennedy. John Kennedy was a friend of mine. And Senator, you are no John Kennedy. And the roof blew off the place. And it was thought to be one of the best killer lines ever delivered in a political debate in the history of the universe. And it didn't matter a whit. George H.W. Bush beat Dukakis by 8 points. The vice presidential debate didn't matter. Now, That was just one aspect. Quayle didn't do poorly in the debate at all, but that one instance, you can imagine the post-debate commentary was embarrassing. They started talking about how George Bush had chosen the wrong guy. Quayle was all energetic and flapping his arms out there on the campaign stump. And they were all beaten up on George W. Bush for choosing. They accused Bush of choosing a young guy to get women. Remember that? Quayle was chosen because he was supposedly going to be a chick magnet. Well, anyway, the point is the vice president debate then, which Quayle reputedly got nailed by the line from Lord Benson, and George H.W. Bush still won. So the vice presidential debate traditionally doesn't matter. But this is a different year with different dynamics and all different ingredients. See, and I still maintain that you can't judge things happening in this political campaign the way you would judge them if both candidates were from the inside, were from the establishment. There clearly is an outsider here, and boy, are they threatened by that. It is all these Democrats who wanted Trump to be donating to them. All these Democrats have been sucking up to Trump for golf club memberships over the years. All of these people who desperately wanted to be invited to Trump parties when he throws them at Mar-a-Lago and everywhere. Now all of us, these Democrats, are talking about Donald Trump as though he is the reprobate of all humanity. I'm old enough now that I can see this stuff repeating. If you're new to this, I'm sure this is all exciting. I'm sure it's got you amped up. I'm sure you're jazzed. I'm sure, wow, this is cool. Man, I love getting all trucked up like this. It's good. See, but when you start seeing this stuff repeat and you start seeing it disintegrate and get worse, and deviancy seeming to rise and become a major factor in these events, it has an effect. At least it has an effect on me. It just makes me sick of it. I'm tired of it. I'm worn out by these tactics. It's not just that it's unfair or anything like that. It'd be childish to say that. It's just beneath us. We deserve better than this. You could pick 100 people out of the phone book and you'd end up with better debate than we had last night. Just pick 100 names out of them and then choose 2 of them. And no, I'm not sliding Pence. This is all the moderator and okay, do this. Pick 100 names and choose 2. Choose a moderator from the phone book and choose the Democrat candidate from the phone book, and I guarantee you we're going to have a better debate than what we had last night. A debate that would better serve us and actually have some meaning, play some role in determining the outcome. The way this is going to determine, if it determines anything, is that the Democrat was such a jerk that maybe, just maybe, people will start putting 2 and 2 together and realizing that's who they all are. Anyway, I got to take a break. Sit tight, my friends. We are coming back and continuing before you know it. Yeah, I'll give you a hurricane update in a minute. There's some stuff I still need to get to here. To the audio sound bites we go. Here we have I guess it's a montage here, drive-by media types, saying that Pence failed to defend Trump. And that there was a reason that Pence didn't defend Trump. See if you can pick it out.
Tim Kaine was running for vice president in 2016. Mike Pence was running for president in 2020.
Mike Pence defended his turf for 2020.
Mike Pence just won the first presidential debate for 2020.
Mike Pence, he's running in 2020. He threw Trump under the bus.
But Mike Pence certainly did himself well if he decides to run in 2020.
Mike Pence came in and made Mike Pence look good for 2020.
I think Mike Pence may have been looking a little bit at 2020.
Made himself probably the front runner for the Republican nomination in 2020.
Lockstep. Every damned one of them. Lockstep. With the same damn take. And I'm just going to tell you, throughout that whole debate last night, that didn't occur to me once. Not one time. Because I know that's not what Pence was doing. Pence wants to win now. Pence wants to correct the lies and character assassinations that are taking place now. 2020, these people can't stop thinking about this in their formulaic way. That even in the middle of this campaign, what some people are really positioning for is 20. And there probably are people doing that. The same usual insiders that play all of this as a game when all of us treat this as real as it gets. To them, it's a game. Pence setting himself up for it is humanly impossible. It defies any notion of common sense and intelligence that after a debate last night, you could have a front runner for 2020. It's beyond absurd. But look, somebody sent the memo out. Or maybe they didn't need a memo. Maybe they think in lockstep without being told. Just mind-boggling. Frank Luntz had a focus group over on CBS. Special coverage, vice presidential debate. Luntz said to his focus group, give me a word or a phrase to describe Mike Pence this evening.
Calm.
Classic.
Polished.
Effective.
Knockout.
Compelling.
Composed.
Eloquent.
And then Luntz said, you were all critical of Senator Kaine. So give me your reactions to Senator Kaine.
Kaine cherry-picked things that made Trump sound like a crazy person, and Kaine came off looking like a crazy person.
Kaine came off as a jerk. I actually liked that guy, and I was really disappointed in him this time. He just kept going back to trying to needle little points, a total jerk, condescending. I think he reinforced the worst of Hillary. I think he really did her a disservice.
Okay, so that's encouraging. I mean, these are average American voters, and they saw it the way we did. Correct? You saw it that way, pretty much. I mean, it was Jerk City last night. That's my point. It was beyond irritating. It was beneath us. It was insulting to us, particularly if that was a strategy. I don't know if Kaine, so I don't know the guy. All I know is that people inside the establishment say about him what they say about everybody. He's a great guy. He's a great family. They all talk about each other that way. I don't know the guy. I've always been suspicious of the guy. The guy's always looked like... I was not surprised with this list, but I just think it's beneath us. And if that was a strategy to go out there and be as jerky and abrasive as you can, lose the debate on purpose to make sure you get all that negative stuff in on Trump. Well, then they pulled that off, too. Now, here's Luntz. After talking to his focus group participants, Luntz had to wrap it up for everybody.
Are any of you now more likely to vote for Donald Trump because of what you heard from Mike Pence? Raise your hands. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So half of you. Will it actually change any of your votes? Nobody. Well, that's pretty significant. These are undecided and uncommitted voters in Ohio. They're the ones that really matter. And tonight was a very good night for the Trump-Pence ticket.
Why? Nobody's going to change their vote. Didn't I hear him say that? Will it actually change any of your votes? Nobody. Well, that's pretty significant. Ohio doesn't count anyway. The New York Times just told us it's no longer a bellwether. Hillary's pulled out of there. The New York Times is not a factor. Lunch, you need to close up shop there. Ohio doesn't matter anymore. The people of Ohio, and you know why? Because Ohio is too white. That's right, my friend. Too many white middle-class people live in Ohio. There aren't enough Black Lives Matter people there. There aren't enough illegal immigrants. There aren't enough ex-cons that need the permission to vote. There's not a good left-wing cross-section of America. There are too many decent, hardworking, middle-class people in Ohio to appeal to the Democrat Party. And so the New York Times told us it's no longer a bellwether. Back in July, the New York Times did a story on how Ohio was crucial when Hillary was winning there. And now she's not, and so it's not important. Here's John King. And this, by the way, this loops back to the rumor that PMSNBC was floating and that Snerdley says the Politico is reporting. This is last night, debate night in America on CNN with John King. And he's discussing the reaction, the aftermath of the debate last night.
I want to give you one insight from somebody inside Trump world who is in the inner circle in Trump world who said that he does not think this is going to go down terribly well with Donald Trump, even though the Trump campaign is rushing out statements with all conservatives across the country praising Mike Pence. They say Donald Trump is watching the reviews and he's hearing Mike Pence won, but he didn't defend Donald Trump, and that Hillary Clinton and Mike Pence are better debaters than Donald Trump. Some people think that might not sit well with the boss.
Oh, so there you go. So there's a second place that it's been promulgated out there. So see, the takeaway is that even when the Trump team wins, Trump loses. Pence had a great debate. Pence outclassed the jerk. Pence outclassed the moderator. Pence was calm. He was cool. He was collected. In fact, he did a great job. Trump loses. Trump lost the debate last night because Pence so easily outclassed him. And Trump is now mad that he was made to look bad. And he's mad that he's got added pressure now to be as good as Pence. That's the story they're putting out, which equals Trump lost. And then, at the end of all that, it didn't matter because none of the people in the lunch focus group say their vote was changed anyway. So there you go. That's how it's done. Okay, on this bit, drive-by saying that Pence was actually positioning himself for 2020. You know what? There's a good chance that talking point went right from the Clinton campaign to the drive-by media. Somebody had to write that. I mean, the idea they're going to think of this independently, lockstep like this, somebody is behind this. And if you ask me, folks, the Clinton campaign is behind this. They want to create the impression that Pence knows Trump's going to lose. Pence knows that Hillary's going to win 26. It's all about 2020 for Pence. That's what they're trying to establish. It's all about 2020 because Pence obviously can see, read the tea leaves. It's over. Hillary, big winner this year. No chance for him. 2020. That's what's going on with that. Yeah, there's Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas. A woman who made up the fact that she's got some Indian blood flowing through her in order to qualify under affirmative action for a no-show job at Harvard. Considered to be one of the leading lights of the Democrat Party. Elizabeth Warren of You Didn't Build That fame. You didn't make that. We did that for you, right? Hey, welcome back. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh here behind the golden EIB microphone. We are in South Florida. We are right in the... Well, it's tough to say right now. I remember when I was growing up in Missouri, when there was hurricane news, and by the way, it wasn't nearly as and widely reported back then, obviously, as it is today. I mean, we had local news, and that was it. That's the only thing you learned about a hurricane, which is what the local news and the network news went down there, and the reporters stand out there in the middle of it warning you what you shouldn't do. I handed a secret note. What is this? Yeah, but this is the guy they're not going to prosecute, right? Government contractor arrested for stealing top secret data. Oh, I'm thinking of something else. There's another case that DOJ threw out because it involves the Democrats. I'll get to this in due course. Growing up, hurricane news was irrelevant. We lived in Missouri. Hurricanes never got there except their aftermath, which was nothing more than rainstorms. It's not that we were unconcerned or we did, but the attitude is much different if you're not going to be affected by one. Moving to Florida in 1997, it's stunning how rapidly my attitude about hurricanes changed. When you have property right along potential paths of hurricanes, it changes your perspective on everything. My point here is, I'm going to give a little bit of hurricane update. I realize many of you don't care. You're not going to be affected by it. And it's not that you don't care. I mean, but it's you can't have the personal investment in it that people in the path do. So I'm just asking you to indulge me for a while. This has been a serious storm from the get-go, and I have perfected being able to analyze how hurricanes are reported. I've become an expert in spotting the politics in hurricane tracking and hurricane forecasting. And by that, I mean people that work at the National Hurricane Center is part of the National Weather Service, which is part of the Commerce Department, which is part of the Obama administration, which by definition has been tainted, just like the DOJ has. And we know, in fact, there's this, Obama is telling Obama is actually telling people that global warming, that climate change is having a very profound impact in the war on Syria. The war in Syria. It's patently absurd. And there's now a story from the Pew Center for People in the Press showing that a majority of Americans do not believe the consensus of scientists predicting that there is climate change. Well, the left doesn't like that, so they keep ramming it down our throats. So in hurricane tracking and hurricane forecasting, I've been able to spot where I think they might be playing games because it's in the interests of the left to have destructive hurricanes, because then they can blame it on climate change, which they can desperately continue try to sell. The problem for them is, after Hurricane Katrina, remember Al Gore goes out there and all these people start saying this is just the beginning, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. We're going to have these kind of hurricanes every year, numerous hurricanes like that, and they're going to be more destructive than Katrina. And it's all because we've got climate change. And then what happened? We had 11 years of no hurricanes. 11 straight years, no major hurricanes striking land in the United States, which just bores a hole right through the whole climate change argument. So over the recent past 5 or 6 years, whenever there has been a hurricane, I think I've been able to spot when they try to make it look like it might hit a population center, because they want people to think this way. Hurricane reported, must be climate change. They want that thought process. And one of the ways you can bring that about is to try to convince people that a given hurricane that may pop up is aiming right for a major population center. It's kind of like UFOs. You know, UFOs never land where there are smart people. UFOs always land in trailer parks and places. You ever notice that? UFOs land in swamps. They land out where nobody lives. They don't go to MIT. They don't go to Harvard. Well, a hurricane hitting a swamp is worthless to the global warming crowd. A hurricane has to hit a population center. Well, this hurricane, there has been no politics. This is a serious, bad storm. This is a Category 4. The winds right now, it's a Category 3 right now, but by the time this goes through the Bahamas and tracks up the east coast of Florida, Category 4, which means sustained winds of 130 and gusts up to 160. Now, we've lived through Category 2s here, and they are devastating. You lose power and you lose your phone lines, and trees are blown over, and the roads are impassable, and there's some home damage depending on the construction of the home and how old it is. It's not pretty. Category 1 even can feature some of this. A Category 4, like is headed for the east coast of Florida right now, could be catastrophic if it comes ashore. Now, here's the general rule of thumb that we veterans in South Florida and all along Hurricane Alley, we have learned that if a hurricane is not going to strike land, but if it's headed in your direction, the rule of thumb is you don't want it, the eye of the storm, which is the most intense, you don't want it closer than 50 miles. If it gets inside that 50-mile range, then you're close to the hurricane force winds and the possibility of storm surge. Storm surge, think tsunami. Not a tsunami, but I want you to think what you think a tsunami is. This giant wave running at you, ready to swallow you up and drown you for life. That's storm surge. Storm surge can be from 10 feet to 30 feet. And depending on how close you are to the beach, storm surge can wipe you out. Now, It's really rare for the eye of a hurricane to hit a specific spot. Remember, Hurricane Andrew was a Category 5, and it devastated Homestead, Florida. But just up the road in Miami, there wasn't much damage. At Fort Lauderdale, even up here in Palm Beach, there wasn't much damage. If any, there were strong winds, but nothing that was devastating or even catastrophic. It's the eye of the hurricane, most of that's what you don't want to hit you. But if it's all over the ocean and traveling anywhere near you, you don't want it to get any closer than 50 miles. Right now, according to the forecast track at 11 a.m., the eye of this storm will pass 54 miles from us here. I have what? What about a baby? No. It's going to pass. If the forecast, we don't know yet. By the way, this is just the forecast track. The models, they run them depending on they run them every 6 hours at different times. There are models that have the hurricane coming ashore at Palm Beach. There are models that have it coming ashore at Cape Canaveral. The Hurricane Center has to take the consensus of the models and then apply their own thought to it. And for the past couple of days, they've had this hurricane roughly tracking up the Florida East Coast 50 miles offshore. Last night at 11, they had it coming within 45 miles. That was 1 a.m., 11 p.m. That's a serious wake-up call. So 5 a.m. today was the new one, and it's back to 54 miles. But realize it's still guesswork. It's as estimated good guesswork as they can get. There's so many things that govern the movement of a hurricane. What's governing this one is a massive ridge of high pressure in the southern Atlantic that is preventing it from turning east. And that high pressure area is said to be expanding slowly, which is what's pushing it closer to the Florida coastline. Now, that ridge is going to be replaced by one further north, and many of the models have this hurricane doing a 360 and coming right back at us next week from the east. There are more models now showing this happening. Last week it was one or two outliers. Now, 5 or 6 or more of these models are showing this thing doing a 360, going up to Wilmington, North Carolina, and making a turn and coming back down, and then hitting somewhere on the east coast of Florida. So a second pass. Nobody predicting a direct hit yet, but and each track. The next report will be at 5 in the afternoon, and there'll be a model run. There was a model run there'll be one at 2 p.m. So you take the 2 p.m. model run. I'll be doing this during the top of the hour break at 2 o'clock. Take the 2 o'clock model run. You compare it to the 8 a.m. model run and the 11 a.m. Hurricane Center forecast. Then try to guess what they're going to say at 5 p.m., which is what we do. Well, it's what I do, and then everybody asks me what's happening. I do all the computations here. And there hasn't been any indication that high-pressure ridge over the southern Atlantic is going to weaken. If it would weaken, then the hurricane would turn more northeasterly sooner and not threaten the Florida or the southeastern U.S. coast. This is going to go right, current track, so close to Nassau that, it may go right over the water slide at Atlantis, the hotel out there on Paradise Island. So it's a Category 4, and Obama's right. He's out there warning this is a serious, serious storm. It really is. And it hasn't hit. It's Haiti, so it's an opportunity for the Clinton Foundation once again to enrich themselves by another trip down there. But they are otherwise occupied with the presidential campaign. So that's why we have all kinds of contingencies set up for this program for tomorrow and Friday. The first objective is for me to be able to do the program, which requires that I decamp, that I leave, and go to parts unknown in order to be able to do the program. Barring that, we have guest hosts set up. So we're undecided even now what tomorrow's going to bring. But it looks like if things don't change, they're going to issue an evac order here on Palm Beach, I would think. And I would think they'd raise the bridges so that nobody can cross the bridge and get onto the island during the storm. I haven't heard of that happening yet, so don't anybody, I'm just wild guessing on this, but they've done it for lesser storms. Raise the drawbridges. There are two of them, primarily, three actually, that get you onto the island here. And they raise those, and you can't get off either if you're still here. And you can't get on if you're not here. And with Category 2, we lose phones, we lose power. This is Category 4. We're okay. If it stays 50 or more miles, we're not going to be okay. But it's not going to be catastrophic if it stays enough offshore or if it weakens. But there's no sign of weakening. And it's not moving very fast, which allows it to strengthen. So that's a long and circuitous description of where we are with this thing. And I find it fascinating that so many years ago, I couldn't have cared less because it was never going to affect me. And now it's such a dominant thing. And we've really been as lucky as we can be the last 11 years, not even a threat. There haven't even been any storms formed that were anywhere near here. And nobody thought they were going to be this year based on the way the year started. Now we've got this baby out there. There's another hurricane also that is northeast of us here that's wandering and meandering. It's not a threat to anything, but it could have a meteorological effect on this one in terms of sucking it out of here, which would be a great thing to happen. Anyway, time to get your phone calls in the mix here, folks. So we'll do that right after this. Don't go away. Okay. As promised, we now hit the phones. We go to Las Vegas. John, you're first. It's great to have you on the EIB network. Hello, sir.
Hello, Rush. Mega dittos.
Thank you, sir.
So let me first say that I think Trump is going to win big time. We can talk about that later. But my question is, if he does win, with the media being all in a way we've never seen before, what are the repercussions to the media?
What exactly do you mean? Do you mean will there be blowback, negative effects on the media because they will have been proven to be ineffective, or the other side will?
Yes, exactly.
Well, the media doesn't act like they ever lose. If Trump wins, their attitude is going to be, well, it's just going to take us a little longer to destroy him, and they will continue to try to destroy Trump. And they'll do it by finding Democrats who think that he deserves to be impeached. I mean, look at what they did to George W. Bush after the Florida recount.
I understand that, but it just seems to me that having gone all in such a big way and not having moved the needle an inch, and if Trump wins, I mean, at a certain point, you would think that the stock analysts and everybody else who the investors are going to go, okay, something's wrong here. But maybe
now, wait a minute. Now you're bringing a different fact. You're talking about some people other than media now. You're talking about the betting markets now.
No. I mean mass media's own. They're public companies.
Oh. No. Let me. I get it now. You think the media is going to eat crow. You think the media is going to figure, you know what? We are so out of touch. We had better change and get with the American people. You're thinking that might.
I think that the owners might force that.
Never happen. Never, ever going to happen. No, I mean, would you expect the Democrat Party to do that?
No.
Well, that's who they are.
Yeah, but they're turning into the equivalent of the Labour Party in England. And
they are. The media is the Democrat Party. The media does not do the media is Democrat Party hacks assigned to journalism positions. Some hacks are consultants. Some are candidates. Some serve in elective office. Some are professors. Some are teaching assistants. Some run think tanks. Others are in the media. And it's a circuitous, almost incestuous. They go from one to the other. You'll have drive-bys go to being spokesmen for candidates, to being communications directors, to going back to being in the news media. And then someone may even run for office sometime, although that doesn't happen much. But I've been watching things like this all my life. Every time, when the Democrat Party lost to Ronald Reagan in 2 landslides, it was the American people's fault. It was Reagan's fault. The American people fell for a dunce The American people were fooled. The American people were idiots. Reagan was a stupid fool. And the Democrats and the media embarked on plans to stop Reagan at every turn. And they failed more than they succeeded. But it's never going to get to the point. I mean, even after the 2002 midterm elections, these are a good illustration for my point. The first congressional election after Bush had won the White House. Traditionally, the incumbent party loses seats in the House and Senate just because after 2 years, enough people are already fed up with the new president that they vote the other party. Bush's party, the Republican Party, actually gained seats in the 2002 off years because of the Wellstone Memorial that the Democrats pulled off. And even after that shocking loss, the Democrats didn't change, and they didn't say, you know what, we are really veered way out of touch with the American people. We need to get back. No. They're constitutionally incapable of that, and so are the people that run the news divisions. Ladies and gentlemen, let me expand on the premise and my answer to the last caller, and also reference an email that I saw here during the break. It is I don't like sometimes having to burst bubbles. It is, for me, been doing this a long time now, it's easy to spot relative newcomers to all this. And I welcome it. Do not misunderstand. I was one once. I, for example, used to be of the frame of mind. I used to believe that we could change the media. I used to believe I was as naive as anybody. For example, when the media would call and want to interview me, I thought it's because they really wanted to find out what I thought about things. I thought it was because they really wanted to find out who I am. I'm new. I'm not well known before I showed up doing this show. I thought there was genuine curiosity. That's not what they wanted. They already, in their minds, knew who I was, and they didn't like it. And they wanted face-to-face opportunities to expose my defects and my problems and my racism and bigotry and all this. So I would answer their questions honestly, under the belief they really wanted to know what I thought. They really wanted to understand the way I thought about political matters. I was so naive, I really believed that many of them had not considered events as I have seen them. That's not at all what was going on. And so when someone calls here and says, hey, Rush, if Trump wins this, I mean, this has got to be so humiliating and embarrassing. Don't you think that the investors in these big conglomerates that own these networks, like Disney owns ABC, Comcast owns NBC, don't you think at some point, if they're so bad and so wrong, the investors and the management is going to demand the media change? That is a perfectly reasonable question. If you're not aware of the way how things actually function and operate, so telling somebody no, that's not going to happen, I feel like I've got to baby them through the answer. The fact of the matter is that at no time in our lives has the media ever acknowledged they were wrong about anybody. Have they never felt the need to apologize for getting something terribly wrong? They have never, after trying to character assassinate people, apologized for doing it when shown they're wrong. So if Trump ends up winning this, the media is not going to say, Dad, how were we so wrong? What did we miss? The media is not going to, wow, are we out of touch with the American people? They're not going to think that at all. They're going to think they failed to get people to see Trump the way they wanted you to see Trump. And that's just going to spur them to keep trying. These are not media people. They are leftists. They are liberal Democrats. And they never, ever allow themselves to believe they are ever out of touch or even in the minority. They have a condescending contempt for the average voter out there. That's why they call the vast majority of the geography of the country flyover country. It's a foreign land. So much as you would like the media to do a mea culpa, much as you would be gratified and satisfied to hear them say, you know what, we really blew this, we're really wrong, we're really out of touch. We never understood that Trump was this. They know full well, and they hate it. And their reaction is going to be, if Trump wins, that they failed and they've got to keep trying harder. Now, the email, it's right along the same alley. I got an email. Rush, do you think that moderator knows how bad a job she did last night? And what that question is, she obviously was just horrible. But does she know? Is she honest? Well, I don't know this moderator. So I don't really know the answer to that, but I can make a very, very educated guess because I know these people like every square inch of my glorious naked body. And I'm here to tell you, I saw her. I watched her when this was over. I watched her greet the candidates, go through the whole rigmarole of shaking hands and patting each other on the back and hugging. Great debate. She was not smiling. She didn't linger to hang around. She kind of beelined off. I think she knew she had done a bad job, but not for the reasons you think she did a bad job. You were probably thinking, does she know how many interruptions she made? Does she know how many interruptions she permitted? Does she know how oftentimes does she realize how unfair she was? She's not thinking about her self-performance that way. Whatever her name is, if she felt bad about her performance last night, it would be for one thing only, and that is the perception she lost control of it. She, as the moderator, didn't dominate it. And believe me, that's what the moderator wants. All these people, the moderator's supposed to blend into the background and not be seen. BS. The moderators are supposed to dominate this thing in the moderator world, in the drive-by media. They're supposed to be as big, as important, and as involved in all this as the candidates. I could name a couple names to prove this to you if I wanted to. And you would immediately know what I'm talking about. But I'm not going to do that because there's a hurricane coming. Well, it has nothing to do with it. It's a convenient reason not to mention the names. You mean, Rush, she doesn't know how bad it looked when she kept interrupting. Any time Pence started talking about the emails or the foundation, she just shut him right up. I said, yep, exactly right. We still don't think she knows how bad she was. No. She did exactly what she was supposed to. Does anybody remember the name Matt Lauer? Anybody remember what happened? When they had a candidates forum at the end of September, this roundtable discussion. You had Trump in there, and you had Hillary in there. Matt Lauer was the nominee or the moderator. And he just wouldn't stop asking her about her emails and wouldn't stop asking her about things like that. Do you remember what they did to Matt Lauer afterwards? They practically excommunicated him and threw him out of the media church. He lost his front pew reservation for a long time. They humiliated. Even now there are stories about how Matt Lauer is still on the outs at NBC. Well, I guarantee you, this moderator last night knew exactly what to do. When the emails come up, shut it down. When the foundation comes up, shut it down. Otherwise, she's going to be, wherever Matt Lauer is, she's going to be joining him. So she dutifully shut it down. I didn't get to it, and I may have it still in the stack here from earlier in the week. There's actually a story about how the left destroys its own if they fail to toe the line. It's about how the media will target and take somebody out if they do not toe the liberal line. By the same token, if you're Dan Rather and you make up stuff to try to destroy George Bush, you get caught, they'll circle the wagons and give you a new award and throw a dinner party for you to save your reputation and theirs. But if you fall off the reservation, if you fall off the beaten path and you start asking Hillary stuff that they don't want asked, you are histoire. So from that moderator last night saved her career, saved her job. But I mean, I think her personal, when you go home at night, nobody's there, and you sit around, you final adult beverage of the night, you reflect, I think she probably feels bad that she wasn't able to maintain control. Not that what's his name, Kane, kept interrupting. It's that she didn't do enough to make him look good while he was doing it. That's what I mean by her losing control. But in terms of the substance and content of the debate, she's not thinking she failed. She kept the emails out of it, and she kept the foundation out of it. And she allowed Kane to interrupt every time Pence got going. So from that standpoint, it was mission accomplished. So I just saw another email. People so subtly tell me they think I'm full of it. Rush, I know what that guy was trying to say. I think that guy's has a point. You might be missing the guy's point, Rush. I mean, what the guy's actually saying is, look at the trouble the media's in. They're losing readers. They're losing advertising. They're losing audience. Their world is crumbling around them. It doesn't appear that it's happening, but it is. And if Trump pulls this out and wins, it's going to show they are totally irrelevant. And aren't they going to know that? I don't believe, folks, that the media people you see on TV every day, from NPR to CBS to ABC to NBC to wherever, are ever going to admit they're irrelevant. And they're not going to start acting like it. And they're never going to say, gee, you know what? We might have to alter the way it isn't going to happen. Even if it means the end of them. And the reason is simple. They hate what we believe. They literally despise the values and the principles that we hold dear, and they don't like us. They are constitutionally, and I mean the way they are made, incapable of thinking that they have made a mistake or that they are wrong. And the American people are right. They're incapable of believing they're out of touch. They don't think it's about being in touch. They don't think it's about... They don't write for the American people anyway. They don't do their stand-ups for the American people. Wolf Blitzer reports what he reports so the other news journalists see it and think he's hotshot. And the rest of them do the same. They don't write for readers. They write for the audience of establishment types. None of them are mass audience anymore. They're all niche. They're writing for other website writers and readers and so forth. I mean, it's a circle. Let me get back to the phones here. I think I've pretty much blown and obliterated this point and exposed it as well as anybody. Enrique in Los Angeles, you're next. I'm glad you waited, sir. Hi.
Hi, Rush. Thank you. The question I got, with two more debates coming up, it seems that the moderators are always liberal and, the Hillary and them know what questions, how to answer them ahead of time. What can the Republican Party do to counter that? Because they're not allowed to answer questions. What is the proper thing to do?
Well, Chris Wallace is nominating one of these debates coming up, right? Chris Wallace is the best of the bunch. Now, he's going to be hard-hitting on Trump, but he will be on Hillary, too. Chris Wallace is not afraid of the Matt Lauer treatment. He already gets it working at Fox. So Chris Wallace is going to be good. I think when I hear Chris Wallace's voice, I actually think I'm listening to something that matters. I'm watching something that has genuine substance to it. Like Brinkley and like the old hosts of these shows in days gone by. But the other I don't know who the other moderator is. Let me ask you, in answering your question, let me ask you one. What did you think? Did you see the debate last night?
I sure did.
What did you think of it? How did Pence do you think?
He seemed like a baby, I couldn't even believe how he was jumping in immediately. I mean, so unprofessional, so unpresidential, just really...
No, not Kane. Pence. How did you think Mike Pence...
Oh, no, I apologize. Pence did incredible. the opposite of what I just said. Very professional, very right, but he got cut off so many times.
Okay, so now, stop right there. So Pence did a great job, you think, but he still got cut off. So one of the next two moderators is going to be this moderator on steroids. Is going to be going. Now they're going to be going. Not going to wait for the candidate to remind Trump he called women whatever he did in Mexico. The moderator is going to do it. And what should Trump do? I mean, there's various strategies here on how you react to these kinds of attacks and assaults. The next moderator is going to try to do it for Hillary. Kaine did it himself last night for Hillary. The next moderator is going to have to do it for Hillary because Hillary won't. Well, she will, but the point is, you want the guy, you want Trump to look good, look strong. How do you do it when you're being assaulted the way Pence was last night? In your mind,
that is the question. That is I guess, the question that it's just unbelievable. I mean, the cutoff.
Let me ask you this: do you think? And by the way, the debate audience last night was small. It was smaller than the Veep debate in 2012 and smaller than the audience in 2008. But regardless, the people who saw the debate, the conventional wisdom in the drive-by media and a lot of places, Pence was great. He was calm. He was cool. He was collected. He was smart. He didn't take the bait. Now, do you think, Enrique, the majority of people watching the debate reacted to it that way? Do you think the people that stopped listening to Puff Daddy for 2 minutes last night, this guy Pence, he was really calm and cool and collected. The people that stopped following Kim Kardashian for 2 hours last night, do you think their conclusion, this Pence guy really came off like an adult? Why, this guy, he was really calm and cool and reserved. I mean, that's the consensus review of Pence is what I just told you. Do you think most people watching the debate saw it that way?
I guess that's the question. If most of the people are pro-Republican or anti-Democrat.
Well, the Frank Luntz focus group says they did. The Frank Luntz focus group said that most people watching thought that Kaine was a jerk and that Pence was great. And if that's true, then if Trump does the same thing, will he get the same accolades? If Trump doesn't take the bait, if Trump doesn't fight back, if Trump remains cool, calm, and collected and stays focused on the points he wants to make and ignores the personal attacks from Hillary, will he get the same reviews that Pence got? Man, he was good. Man, he was calm. Did you see that? So cool. So collected. Not rattled whatsoever. Hillary was flapping her gums and it wouldn't have any impact at all. He stayed focused on his mess. Do you think he'll get the same positive reviews that Pence did if he replicates Pence's strategy and performance? And I'm here to tell you the answer to that is no way. And we will take a break. We have to. I have no choice here, folks. Okay, now the hurricane is beginning to be seen now. Satellite views, radar views it's coming into view now, which means we don't have to depend on the Hurricane Center or other locations to tell us where it is and how it's moving. I just found a couple websites where I can actually see the thing moving. It's just off the northwest coast of Cuba, and it's tracking towards us. It's a big mama. And it's a defined eye. The eye wall had disappeared as it traveled over Haiti and far eastern Cuba. So, yeah, it's a northeastern Cuba. It's over. So we can now see it. That means a whole new type of anal attention being paid to it. Greetings and welcome back. Great to have you with us, my friends. Rush Limbaugh here behind the golden EIB microphone. The telephone number, if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. We have a new email address, lrushbaugh@eibnet.us. And we are thrilled to have with us Governor Pence, Mike Pence, Indiana, governor running for vice president, fresh off the debate last night. Governor, I have to commend you. I don't know how you did it. I don't know how you kept your composure last night. That was some of the rudest beneath us. I'm telling the audience all day, I thought the whole thing was beneath the dignity of the American people, and you handled it magnificently. And how did you do it? You had to just be, I don't know, burning, frustrating at certain points, wanting to just pop out of that, but you didn't. It was well done.
Well, first, Rush, coming from you, and I'm very humbled by that. Thank you very much. And I just, the encouragement we received, we had a great rally in Virginia this morning, heading to Pennsylvania now on our campaign bus, and it's just been very heartening to me. But I think, my goal last night was to really talk about the issues that the American people are focused on, that the vision Donald Trump has articulated to make America great again means a stronger America at home and abroad. It means a Supreme Court that will uphold the Constitution, and it also means that we're going to have the highest standards of integrity in the highest office in the land. And I wanted to make that case for my running mate, and I also wanted to draw the contrast. And but it was a vigorous debate. But at the end of the day, I really do believe that Donald Trump won the debate. Donald Trump's vision to make America great again won the debate. And I truly do believe as we continue to carry his vision, that optimistic, forward-looking vision, we're going to drive forward the next 34 days and elect him as the 45th president of the United States.
Well, it's interesting and fascinating to hear you say that, because I have been playing for the audience sound bites all day, reading various news stories, essentially saying that you did so well that you so overshadowed Trump that even though you won, he lost. As it's fascinating, Governor, no matter how well you guys do, they always turn it into a Trump loss.
That's just standard operating procedure with the national media. But look, Donald Trump called me right after the debate to congratulate me, and we actually talked a couple times last night. And I'm very encouraged that some people think I won, but I'm just telling you, I told the people in Virginia this today. From where I sat, Donald Trump won. He really did. It was Donald Trump's vision to make America great again. It was Donald Trump's vision to end illegal immigration once and for all. The whole debate, I have to tell you, I thought the moderator did a good job of focusing on issues the American people really care about. We had a vigorous conversation about economic growth. And, what was in high relief is that Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine are going to raise taxes, and Donald Trump and I are going to cut taxes. And the ability just to lay out to the American people, the choice in this election, the failed foreign policy of which Hillary Clinton was the architect during her 4 years as Secretary of State. And of course, all of what has proceeded out of the Clinton Foundation. These are all the things that this campaign has been taking to the American people. It's the reason why Donald Trump is attracting record crowds all over the United States. And as I campaigned with him and campaigned for him, I just truly do believe that this is a movement of the American people, and it's a movement that speaks to the ideals that really have characterized your voice and your career throughout your many years in radio.
You truly are one of the most gracious and magnanimous. I mean, for you to say what you just said, you are truly one of the, not about me, I'm talking about the moderator and other things that happened last night. You are truly one of the most magnanimous and gracious men that we have in American politics today, because you have that knack, Governor, and I need to applaud you for it. I don't have the ability to contain myself after an event like that the way you do. But let me tell you something else they're saying.
I've been a fan for a long time.
See, I don't do the caffeine. You do. Or wait, it's the other way around. I do the caffeine and you don't. But here's another thing.
I have to tell you, I was incredibly humbled to be on that stage last night. I mean, when you think about, my little family in my life. I mean, my grandfather immigrating to this country when he was my son's age, my mom and dad building a small business in a small town in southern Indiana. For me to be there, I felt a great weight of responsibility, but a few minutes before I went out, my wife looked at me and she said, just remember, this is about the American people. This is about the country. I mean, this country's in a lot of trouble. And Donald Trump has really given voice to the aspirations and the frustrations of the American people like no one in my lifetime since Ronald Reagan. And for me to be some small part of that, being able to share his message, his vision, his passion, and the kind of president that he's going to be and make America great again is just...
Well, let me tell you something else they're saying. I've got two more areas I want to explore with you if you have time. Yeah. One of the things they're saying, you laughed at the first one, where Trump's mad at you because you put pressure on him for making him have to work even harder this Sunday because you did so well, and that he lost because you won. Here's the third thing they're saying. The third thing they're saying is you actually weren't trying to help Trump last night. You already know Hillary's going to win, so you were doing everything you did for 2020, Governor. Your 2020 campaign began last night. That's what they're saying in the drive-by media, Governor.
It's, it's what we're used to. I mean, look, I said in Virginia today at a rally, most mornings I have to turn on the television with a stick. You just never know what's going to be there.
That's right, with a stick.
It's 2-on-1 every
wearing
day.
latex gloves, exactly.
Hillary Clinton's work for her. And look, I last night again and again, what I sought to do was make sure people exactly what Donald Trump's vision to make America great was all about. And I also wanted them to know what the choice was, what the other side was all about. But I have to tell you, I thought the opportunity for us to really talk about solutions, a stronger America at home and abroad, compared to the avalanche of insults coming out of Hillary Clinton's running mate last night. And then they said that we were running. Did you get that phrase?
Yes,
insult-driven campaign.
I saw it.
The American people. I hope in some small way last night that I helped to point out that Donald Trump is the one who's articulating that optimistic, broad-shouldered vision that's going to revive our economy, rebuild our military, and have America standing tall in the world again. But I promise the days that we have remaining in this campaign, we're going to continue to work shoulder to shoulder to elect this good man as the next great president of the United States.
We're talking with Governor Pence following his debate performance last night with Senator Kaine. Governor, I want to share with you what I told my audience at the beginning of the program today. What I saw last night, in watching your opponent, it became clear to me that they are terrified of what you and Trump and a majority of the American people think. They're terrified. You were interrupted 72 times because they can't afford, they do not trust to let the American people hear what you really think. They're afraid of it. They're not allowed. Their purpose is to not permit you to actually speak the things that you believe because they don't trust the American people to elect them if they actually know what you and Trump and the rest of us stand for. And that's what I thought was outrageous. And you dealt with it masterfully. I really do believe that we need to make America more like Mike Pence again. That's what I think. After watching you last night, if American politics is what you were last night, then you'd have a lot more people with a lot more faith and trust in it. And I'm not trying to embarrass you. I really think that.
Well, Trump, I'm just staggered by that. Rush, I'm very humbled by those words, but I will tell you that I learn from Donald Trump every day. And last night, the ability to be out on that stage, making the case for his vision, making the case for his leadership. You know, a moment that I remember from the debate was when Elaine looked at me and she said, "Well, what's your strategy for dealing with, a revived and more aggressive Russia?" And I just said, strength. I mean, what Donald Trump personifies is American strength. I said again today in Virginia, to be around him when the Klieg lights are off. You've known him for a long time. You know I'm not exaggerating on this point. The truth is the man embodies the American spirit. He's freedom-loving, independent, willing to fight for what he believes in. And I truly do believe that when we elect Donald Trump as the 45th president of the United States of America, we'll make America great again. And I couldn't be more humbled or more honored to be standing with him in this cause.
Well, look, I know where you're coming from. You grew up in Indiana. You're now the governor, and you find yourself on the biggest stage in American politics, a presidential campaign. If it didn't humble you, you wouldn't be the kind of person that you are, and it's all to your credit. I think, Governor, you've got to know Mr. Trump quite well, obviously. I still think a lot of people are making the mistake of trying to plug Donald Trump into what they think average, ordinary, everyday politicians are. He's not a politician. You made that point, right. He's not a politician. Right. And to try to plug him into that hole is to misunderstand who he is. Such as, when he gets attacked for this or that, he will fight. He'll go right back at whoever does it instead of it, because that's who he is. And it's, by the way, something the Republican Party has not been doing for enough years that Americans, Republicans, are frustrated by it. So are you feeling good about where things are now? Coming off the performance last night, your crowds are over the top big and excited. You still feel the same energy out there for the campaign as when it started?
Oh, it grows every day. Donald Trump and I talked last night. He was in Nevada, and this week you're just seeing record crowds that are coming around him. And even when I do little rallies out there on my own, 500 and 1,000 people that'll come out and hear from me as I campaign for him. It really is one of the things Donald says to me more often than anything else, and that is when we'll pull into a venue and you'll see the enormous crowds, you'll see the long lines, he'll look at me and he'll just say, Mike, this isn't about me. This isn't about us. He says, this is a movement, and it's about this country, and it's about the American people. And I think that's what people sense about him. Is this is a man who, the day he walks into the Oval Office, he will be their champion. He'll fight every day to make the country great again, and he'll fight for the American people and for our nation to stand tall on the world stage and to have the kind of economy that'll deliver jobs and opportunities for this generation and the next.
Where are you today? Where do you go the rest of the week and weekend?
Well, we didn't get too much sleep last night, but they put me right back to work. I got on this campaign bus, and we had a great stop in Virginia, not far from James Madison University, and now we're headed up near Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and I just couldn't be more excited. I mean, the enthusiasm that we're seeing out there, literally, as we canvass the country, it gives me great confidence that if all of us do all we can, if we recognize that it's 2-on-1 with the national media doing most of Hillary's work for her every day, we go out, we tell our neighbors and our friends that we can make America great again. I really do believe that we're going to elect Donald Trump as the 45th president of the United States, and I'm going to work my heart out.
Congratulations, Governor. It was well done last night, and I'm flattered to have you on the program again today. Best of luck.
Thanks, Rush.
You bet.
Thanks. That means the world coming from you. All the best.
You bet. Thank you. Gets Governor Pence fresh off the debate last night. He means it when he says he's humbled by this. He really does. He doesn't take this for granted. It hasn't gone to his head, and he's truly humbled by the position he finds. This is rare air that these people breathe. Running for president, running for vice president, being the nominee, and the vice presidential nominee of your party. It's really, really rarefied air. As you know, there have been, 43, 44 presidents. Some of them serve second term, so there hasn't really been that. It's a very, very small club of people. Okay, going to take a brief time out here. We'll come back and resume here on the EIB Network. Do not go away, folks. Stick right with us. Okay, the moderators for the next debate Sunday night are Anderson Cooper and Martha Raddatz. Did you see they tried to hire Anderson Cooper for Live with Regis and Kathy Lee, which of course now is Live with used to be Michael and Kelly. Kelly Ripa. And Cooper turned him down. I better not say what I'm thinking. The final debate is Chris Wallace moderating. That's October the 19th. Oh, yeah, I've got that here somewhere. There's a feud that has developed. Yes! Rumor has it from Mediaite. Rumor has it ABC and CNN are feuding hard ahead of next week's debate. The powers that be have chosen to go with a town hall style setup and 2 moderators, Anderson Cooper, Martha Raddatz. Page 6 in the New York Post says that they're beefing. Specifically, each one of them reportedly wants to be the one who hits Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump with the hard questions. Page 6 reported that sources close to the 2 networks are describing the Washington meetings between both network producers, talent, and executives as acrimonious. Here's the full quote. Getting the 2 networks together has been a challenge. They are feuding over petty things like who does each particular topic. Both Anderson and Martha want to shine, to be tough on the candidates, and not to be accused of bias. Ha! That's all I need to hear. The story's bogus. Avoid being accused of bias. Okay. And what is this? They each want to be the one who hit Hillary Clinton and Trump with hard questions? You mean there are going to be some soft ones? What does this mean? That somebody's going to be assigned to softballs and somebody gets the hard balls? Why can't they be hardball every time they talk to one another? I don't mean unfair. Is somebody going to ask Hillary about the server? Somebody ask her about the emails? Somebody going to ask her about what difference does it make now about 4 people being dead in Benghazi? Is somebody going to ask? She hasn't been asked that yet. Is somebody going to ask her about the way she bullied women who had had affairs with her? Is somebody going to ask her these things? Are they arguing to see who doesn't have to ask those? My guess is that neither one of these people want to be the one to go there. And if they don't, it's going to be up to Trump to do it. The rest of the quote is, so there's a lot of turf grabbing going on. See, these moderators, they want to be every bit as much of the show as the candidates. I don't care what we hear about, I don't want to be noticed, I just want to blend in. They all want to be Candy Crowley. Well, in terms of style, they think they're in the same league. This is the thing that look, it's all showbiz, and the news people think that, they're more legitimate claimants to the showbiz aspects of this than even the politicians. But they at least think it's equal footing. So, well, we'll find out soon enough how this all plays out. So the drive-bys are all excited that Julian Assange of WikiLeaks has nothing. WikiLeaks has been promising for weeks now that they had another Hillary document dump coming. It's supposed to happen yesterday. And then Assange didn't show up, so they're postponing it. And it's because some people speculate that Hillary had asked some people, why can't they just drone the guy? And that's what the Obama administration does. I mean, they launch drones that kills people. And Hillary is now saying she doesn't remember. What is it? She doesn't recall joking about droning Julian Assange. And she may not, folks. I mean, after all, she may not. It could have happened during one of those seizures. I mean, you just don't know. Anyway, back to the phones we go. Stephen in Kingston, Tennessee. It's great to have you on the EIB network. Hi.
Hello, Rush. It's a pleasure speaking with you from transplanted New Englander to the cowfields of Tennessee.
Thank you, sir. Very much great to have you here.
I was just wanting to mention how much, and I point this out to my kids, too, because my oldest is of voting age, and I point out to them how much Trump is Reagan-esque in everything he's been doing, and especially about, him following a poor president like Reagan did. But the big thing I've noticed is he has the ability to choose the people that need to be in the positions they need to be in because he has the understanding, like Reagan did, of that they don't know everything and that he knows where his limitations are so he can choose the right people. And Pence just proved that last night.
Oh, that's a good point. That's a good point. You might get some argument from people who think that Trump is Reagan-esque. because of a couple things. Although I have to tell you, Jeffrey Lord, American Spectator, who worked in the Reagan White House in the political department. You know, I asked you when I learned last year that he was an ardent Trumpist. I said I was a little surprised, and I said, Jeffrey, what's going on? He said, Rush, I'm sorry. I've met him. I've talked to him, and at the early stages here, he reminds me of so much of Reagan and so many things. And Trump has never reminded me of Reagan, but I didn't know Reagan personally the way Jeffrey Lord and other people do. So I can't sit here and say that Jeff is wrong. He knew Reagan intimately, and Trump knows him pretty well, too. And now here you're not the first person otherwise, aside from Jeffrey, to make this reference to me.
The way he can do this ability to be in the limelight and almost be celebrity, just like Reagan was, and the way the media has attacked him like they attacked Reagan for him being celebrity or doofus or, whatever they tried labeling Reagan with, unintelligent. And now they're trying to use the same argument with, he shouldn't have his finger on the button. Remember how everybody thought Reagan was going to launch the missiles?
Well, I'll tell you what it is. And it was true in Reagan, too. One of the reasons that Reagan was hated, and folks, I'm not throwing that word out lightly. I mean, the media hated the guy. It probably was not personal hatred. It was hatred for the whole idea that Reagan could succeed. It was hatred for the idea that Reagan could overcome them. And that's exactly what he did. Reagan did not have a conservative media. He had nothing. He didn't have talk radio. There wasn't any. Not national. He didn't have blogs and websites, and he didn't have all these independent thinkers that were smarter than he was telling him what to do every day like exists now. It was it. He didn't have a media behind him, but he had the ability to reach the American people directly. He didn't need to go do a press conference or an interview in order to communicate with the American people, meaning he didn't need to use them as the middlemen. And Trump doesn't need that either. Trump can reach the American people on his own without having to use the media. And they're not, but the one big difference, Trump will do any media that asks him. If Talk Radio Mars called, Trump would make time. He'd go to a studio with an uplink to Mars. He does everyone. He does every interview that people ask him to do. He's everywhere. And he's not afraid of them. And he's not afraid to be who he is. And a lot of people, you realize how many people in politics, you always wonder who they really are. With Trump, you don't. You know exactly who he is. Stephen, I'm glad you called. This is Alessandro. The reason I pause is because it's on two lines here. There's one line with part of the name, and the bottom line has it. So I just had to study it for a minute. In, where is it? Chino Hills in California. Alessandro, hi. Great to have you with us.
Hi. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really good. Thank you. Oh, you're 13 years old. I just saw that, too.
Yes, sir.
Well, it's great to have you here with us.
Thank you. My question today is, I play soccer, and in the games, there are referees, right? So my question is, why doesn't Hillary follow the rules of the FBI, and why doesn't the FBI catch what she does, such as private emails and those things?
You have asked a perfect question. It's a question that somebody like you, at your age, looking at this, would be at the front of your mind. How because she got away with not paying. You just mentioned your soccer refs. You have to listen to them. What they say goes, right?
Right.
Whether they're right or wrong, they're the authority on the field, and you have to do what they say. You have to play the rules of the game as they interpret them and all that. Well, the answer to your question, Alessandro, is the reason that she doesn't have to follow the rules of the FBI is because the FBI is not enforcing the rules on her.
I see.
It's no more complicated than that. It's as if you're playing soccer and the referees are for the other team. That's what's happening here with the FBI is part of the Department of Justice. And that's part of the executive branch, which means President Obama is the boss. He appoints the leader of the Department of Justice, a cabinet position, and the FBI, and they serve at his pleasure. Now, in the past, those people have been pretty much independent and have tried to remain unaffected by the political wishes of the president. There have been examples in the past where that hasn't worked. But this, it is clear that the FBI, as the referee or the enforcement of the rules, the laws, is not applying them to her. Now, that then, so what, you might say, well, why? And that's the $64,000 question. That we can only guess. I can tell you what my guess is, Alessandro. I think the reason that the FBI is doing what it's doing is because the FBI, the people there, the director, does not want to be the person who took action that damaged the nominated candidate of the Democrat Party for president. I think that's something that the man does not want to live with the rest of his life, doesn't want it on his resume. Let the American people decide. The Democrat Party nominated her, and I think he just doesn't want to take the steps to cause her problems in that regard. As such, the rules don't apply. I mean, they've had to invent this new thing for her that she's not guilty of any of this because they couldn't find any evidence. She intended to break the rules, which, Alessandro, that's clearly not true. And it doesn't matter. Ignorance is no excuse if you break the law. You can say, I didn't know I couldn't steal those Skittles from the 7-Eleven. Doesn't matter. They're still going to get you for stealing the Skittles. Well, they're telling us that Mrs. Clinton, she didn't intend to break any of these rules, and so there's really nothing we can do. It's real flimsy. So people have lost a lot of confidence in the referee here.
Right.
Doesn't seem right, does it? I mean, you've got your soccer matches, you've got the referees enforcing the rules on both teams, and that's nothing compared to the FBI. The FBI, that's serious stuff. People running for president, that's serious stuff. And for them to be excused from following the rules, it doesn't seem right, does it?
No, it doesn't.
Well, obviously, because you called and asked about it. So, what do you think needs to happen to people like this? Or in situations like this, what do you think needs to happen to fix it?
Well, the FBI needs to try to stop these type of things, and that's what I think. Yeah, makes sense to me. Well, look, Alessandro, I'm glad you called. I mean, it's great to hear from you, and I'm flattered that you are in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Guys, quick timeout, my friends. I'm just looking here. I shouldn't do this because I'm not a meteorologist. I shouldn't do this. So let me just do it, but predicate it by saying I'm not a meteorologist. I'm not trained at all. I'm looking at the latest model run. I told you there's going to be a model run at 2 o'clock. I'm looking at it. And a lot of these models have shifted way west. Some of them right up the middle of the state. A lot of them. The 5 o'clock forecast is going to be interesting. I don't expect they're going to change the track much because not all models are equal. And this is a real spaghetti model. I mean, there must be 25 or 30 models here, and it's impossible to track each one of them individually. But there's a whole lot more model activity over the peninsula of Florida than there was at 8 a.m. today. Well, they don't have it coming ashore yet. The official track doesn't have it. Closest to coming ashore just south of Cape Canaveral on the 11 o'clock. The next official forecast will be at 5 Eastern Time. The models, as I say, they just reported the latest model runs at 2 o'clock, 45 minutes ago. And I'm telling you, this model run looks different, drastically different. There's still a whole bunch of models right on the forecast track That hasn't changed, but a lot of them have shifted way west. Some of them now over to Tampa. But I shouldn't say that. I'm not a meteorologist. Nothing official here. Just tell you what I'm looking at. You'd see the same thing if you saw the model runs that I'm looking at. Back in a sec. I got a quick question. We have this hurricane out there. This hurricane's 150 miles away. Let's say 200, and they don't know where it's going. Why is there not a consensus of scientists that can look at this hurricane and tell us right now where it's going? Because we have a consensus of scientists that can tell us what the sea levels and the temperatures are going to be 50 years from now. The climate change global warming hoaxers, they claim there's a consensus of scientists that we must accept and agree with because it is incontrovertibly true that there is going to be rising sea levels and rising temperatures to the point that the planet may not even be habitable in 50 years. They've been saying this, by the way, since 1980. Why isn't there a similar consensus of scientists that can tell us where this freaking hurricane is going to go? Is that a reasonable question, or am I being unreasonable here? It's a rather brilliant question, actually, in terms of the point that it makes. Here's Ann in Williamsport, Maryland. Great that you got through today. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thanks for taking my call.
Yes, ma'am.
I just appreciate all you do. I love listening to you.
Thank you.
But the reason I called was I really loved the way last night Pence looked into the camera and spoke to the American people. Even if they tried to get him off course, he actually acknowledged the America out in TV land, I should say. But I just really appreciated that. And I hope Trump does the same thing.
Well, you know what? Your observation, I think, is shared by a lot of people. He kept his cool. He was, importantly, was not flustered off of the points that he wanted to make. That they were trying to just rat-tat-tat, endless interruptions and assault, try to get him off his line of thinking, forget his train of thought and the points that he wanted to make. And they didn't succeed. Kane ended up looking like El Jerko. And, of course, now we've got the cover theories. Well, Rush, I mean, they're so far ahead. Kane actually went in this to lose it. That was the first theory I heard last night from drive-by analysts. Oh, yeah, he wanted to lose this. They've got a cushion. They can lose this. It was important to have the stuff about Trump said. And Kane said it, and he said it, and said it. He repeated himself 5 or 6 times on each one of those things. And he was willing to run the risk of losing the debate on style points or whatever just to make sure that those talking points. And then they concluded, well, Pence really did well. Pence didn't rise to the bait. He kept his cool and all that. And in the process, Donald Trump lost. Because Pence did so good, he made Trump look bad. Then they told us that Trump was mad that Pence did so well. Because Pence doing well puts more pressure on Trump to do well. As though Trump's going into the debate, not really giving it his all, but now he's mad because Pence did so well that Trump really has to try now. They actually try to make us believe this, pap. In the immediate debate aftermath last night, where we retreated all the analysis. Oh, and then the pièce de résistance that Pence knows that Hillary's got this locked down. It's over. Pence was simply positioning himself for his own 2020 presidential run. These people, I don't think they realize how obvious and transparent they are now to people. Okay, folks, that's it for us today. We will be here. Well, I will be here tomorrow. Remember, as long as I'm here, doesn't matter where here is. Things will be normal on this program tomorrow. We'll see you then.